reflect the views of Urban One Incorporated, Radio One, or any of its subsidiary companies.
Attorney Nathaniel Lee, a lawyer with credibility, success, and experience. Representing people in hundreds of jury trials, Nathaniel Lee is who you want by your side in the courtroom. You've seen the rest, now hire the best. Contact Lee, Cosell, and Feigley today. And now, to address the legal concerns of the community, Praise AM 1310, 95.1 FM presents Legally Speaking. Here are today's hosts.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining us again today. I have my superstar panel with me today, all locked and loaded. We got so many important topics. We have that crack research analyst, Attorney Nathaniel Banks, who provide great guidance to us on events and research. And Marlon Primes, he was formerly Department of Justice, and the famous, of course, Milton Grimes, who represented the guy that changed Rodney King, the guy that changed the course of American history as it relates to police misconduct. You know, we see a lot of that today. So I guess, Milton, we have to revisit that situation look like on a daily basis now. But there are so many different topics since we were off a week ago for the 4th of July holiday weekend. And the 250th year celebration didn't seem like a celebration to me. It became so political until, quite frankly, it was nauseating. But the big issue I thought to start off with were, of course, Haitians who came here on temporary protective status. Everybody would agree that they would qualify based on what was going on in their country. And it looks like our country is turning its back on people of color. Attorney Banks, what do you think about that?
Well, specifically with respect to the Haitian crisis that we're experiencing here in this country right now, and I'll comment about what I mean by that. But this crisis has occurred as a result of the 6-3 decision in the recent U.S. Supreme Court case Mullen versus Doe, which stands for the proposition that the temporary protective status of Haitians and Syrians can be revoked unless the workers have an alternative form of legal status. So that's resulted in a lot of confusion and chaos in this country, because we know that many Haitians who held this temporary protective status, they work in our healthcare systems, hospitality, farming, agriculture, our airports, very productive people. And we're going to see massive staffing shortages in those industries that I just listed and others. And just historically, temporary protective status allows people already in the United States to remain here and work legally if their home countries are affected by national disasters, armed conflict. And we know that Haiti's political, economic, social climate currently is in chaos. And the work permits have been extended for a short period of time until July 24th, 2026, so in 2 weeks. And it's going to create a disastrous situation here in the United States. And I'm urging everyone, our listeners, to immediately call your Senate representatives and urge them to support Senate Bill number 4814. Encourage, demand them to vote yes on this Senate bill, which was recently introduced in the U.S. Senate, and it would demand or require the Secretary of Homeland Security to designate Haiti for temporary protective status.
Marlon Primes, in your state of Ohio, it became a political football in terms of Haitian. I know that's close to home. What happened?
Yes, good morning, everyone. And yeah, this is just a tragedy. Springfield's about an hour away from my wife's hometown in Dayton, Ohio. And the president, as many of you may recall, during one of the presidential debates, indicated that the Haitians were eating pets, cats and dogs, and people laughed and joked about it. But it was really unfortunate. It really kind of went to our worst stereotypes, and it turns out that none of that was true, and it was just an internet rumor that had no basis in fact. Now, in terms of this temporary protected status, basically, what the issue is that we're providing someone with humanitarian relief because of the conditions in their home country. And a lot of that rooted in what many of your listeners will recall. There are a number of our Jewish brothers that were denied entry during World War II to the United States. And then as a result of that, were sent back to Germany and Europe and went into concentration camps. So the whole idea is that you make an assessment as to whether or not it's safe to return. And the lawsuit that led to the Supreme Court decision that Attorney Banks mentioned is problematic because it was challenged on two additional grounds. Number one, that the Homeland Security has to make a specific determination as to whether or not it's safe for them to return. And the allegations in the lawsuit were that there was no particularized assessment. It was just not based on any facts whatsoever. And number two, more importantly for your audience, Nathaniel, there was a claim that the decision to revoke the status of Haitians living here under the TPS program was based upon discrimination. And we should really be concerned about Justice Alito's decision, where he basically indicated that despite evidence that the president of the United States indicated that, hey, Haiti and all these other countries were S-hole countries, and that why can't we get more immigration from Norway and countries of that nature? It was important, and Justice Sotomayor's dissent said, hey, look, this cannot be more clear that this is discrimination and this discrimination motive. And Justice Alito, we should all be concerned about, he basically waved it away and said, oh, this is still not evidence of discrimination. And that just kind of boggles the mind. If someone says that, hey, all these countries are primarily people of color, they're S-hole countries, we don't want people there, and then you name a series of countries that are predominantly 90% white, I mean, what does that tell you? And what does that bode for assessment of discrimination claims? So it's really problematic. The final point that I'll make is that there have been a number of employers in Springfield, and the mayor and our Republican governor have basically come forth and said, hey, these Haitians are doing a wonderful job, and one of the employers said, hey, I wish I had more to hire. And if we lose them, it's going to be very problematic because they could not find other workers that are going to do the same work that they do. So hopefully there'll be a legislative fix, and that these individuals that are here in Ohio and other parts of the country will not have to return to Haiti, where it's just lawlessness. There are gangs that are controlling the capital, Port-au-Prince. It's not safe. So hopefully there'll be a legislative fix, and that's something that your audience, Nathaniel, should be concerned about, and also, make sure that we're contacting our local representatives and national representatives.
Milton Grimes educated lawyers all over the country in terms of police misconduct with the Rodney King case. But what was the critical evidence, I know Milton said this many times in seminars, that there was a videotape of it. So just a couple of days ago, we saw a gentleman got murdered down in Texas by ICE. And ICE confronted the gentleman. I will look at the video, Milton, and they got unmarked vehicles like regular folks. like a bunch of gangsters pulling up on this guy and murdering the guy. Uh, Video footage from the officer perspective, their perspective rather, they don't keep body cameras. They don't record anything. And it's almost like they have a legal license to go out and commit murder on folks and get away with it, Milton. Is there any accountability?
They have a legal license to go out and murder people, like you said. So why should they be accountable? I've seen too many videos contradict what the officers write in a report, even though the video is their own making, come from their dash cam or their body cam, which refutes their report saying that the deceased attacked them or tried to kill them, etc. And the video shows the opposite. I've seen the officer change his statement from the person was attacking me and I thought she was going to murder me to after the person is searching, he finds a letter, a box opener in the back pocket of the victim, change it a week later when interviewing with Internal Affairs, says the person I thought was reaching for a weapon in their back pocket. So they seem not to give a lot of respect to solid evidence against them, I guess, because they think society is going to protect them when they come to court. The headline in today's paper was a police officer here in LA who worked with an organization in the police department that was responsible for recruiting people to be police officers. And he heard so much prejudicial remarks, so many prejudicial remarks and statements against homosexuality, against the races, Asians and Blacks and Latinos, showing that the supervisors in that department were very racist. And so he tape recorded them. And he has 90 different tape recordings of his fellow officers making racial comments and sexual comments about people. And he presented that to the department. The department has presented those tapes to the district attorney's office for his prosecution for violating their rights of privacy, the people's rights of privacy. So now this is the person on the spot, not the people whom he tape recorded, who were making these comments. So Nathaniel, Malcolm Gladwell in his book, Talking to Strangers, I think is the title of it, talks about what we need to do with our police department. And one thing is we need to be more selective in the people we recruit to be policemen. Otherwise, we're going to end up with the same thing. We're going to end up with the same results. You can't get a change if you don't change what you put into it. And so he believes that the education level should be raised, the training should be raised, the pay should be raised, and these people should be proud of what they do as opposed to just doing a job and going home and safely. So what do we expect? We haven't really changed the core, and you're going to get the same result. The ICE think that they have immunity from prosecution because by the time it gets to a courtroom, the evidence has gone one way and another way and disappeared, and society, for some reason, still believe that law enforcement is sacred.
At least 8 people have been killed by ICE during this administration's immigration crackdown campaign, and no officers have been charged. And you'll remember Renee Good and Alex Pretty in Minneapolis. This father who had been in this country for 30 years and who had applied and was very close to citizenship, I understand. His children and other family members are U.S. citizens. He was killed on his way to work. And the ICE officers allege that he failed to follow their commands, and that he attempted to weaponize his vehicle to run over these ICE agents. The witnesses dispute that account.
Right.
From what I have read, these officers have no body cameras. Their vehicles are unmarked. Um, they were allegedly targeting someone else in a quote white van. This citizen was driving a white van on his way to work with his construction
Well,
crew. Apparently, these officers had received a quote administrative warrant for two Guatemalans. Mr. Arojo, if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, is Mexican, and a full independent investigation must be done
well,
in this case. A
Benita,
full stop. Even the Mexican president is seeking criminal charges for these deaths related to ICE after these fatal shootings. Everyone has a right to go to work, Milton, and come back home safely. And this could be anybody and everybody's dad.
well, Benita, you're sitting back on your couch and you're viewing this on TV. These good officers of the law and of the nation are out there in this danger zone where people are attacking them and people are weaponizing automobiles and tricycles, and it's a danger. You got to give the officers the benefit of the doubt to protect themselves, because they're doing what God and the people have given them the power to do, and that is to patrol and make it safe for you to go to work and sit at home and watch this on TV in a safe environment. They don't work in that safe environment. So that's their justification. That's the society that they've described. And they can create easily this dangerous paranoia attitude in themselves when they see a vehicle not doing what they expect it to do, or anyone doing what they don't expect them to do or tell them not to do. So that's the way it goes.
And Marlon, the problem I'm having is that your former employer, the Department of Justice, used to be more proactive on these cases. What the heck's going on? I mean, there's no involvement of the nation's largest law enforcement organization.
Yes, Nathaniel, it's really sad. The U.S. Department of Justice, the Civil Rights Division, was widely respected for the follow-up to the Rodney King debacle in terms of the state prosecution, and came to California and did get a conviction. And these are the type of cases that they were involved with around the country. And many people will remember the famous, photograph of the Civil Rights Division Attorney General actually escorting African American students in the height of segregation and Jim Crow. So what's happening right now is that you have just a mass exodus of African Americans from the Department of Justice, and particularly the Civil Rights Division. There was a photograph that your audience, Nathaniel, may have seen on social media, that there were 100 new attorneys hired by the U.S. Department of Justice in Washington. And I believe there were one or two of that 100 that were African American. And, and if you really look at the marching orders of DOJ, instead of focusing in on what the initial intent was, just to protect African Americans and make sure that we have a diverse and equal society, now they're focusing in on reverse discrimination and openly, telling, our white male brothers and sisters, that white male and female, that if you have a claim of reverse discrimination, that is going to be our priority. And that sends an important message out to the country. And also it sends an important message to employers that if you engage in discrimination, you're not going to be held accountable. So it's really unfortunate the way things are progressing. And I think we'll probably talk about the Supreme Court decision that came out that gives this administration more power. And so these are really, very scary times.
And what can we have? What can we say other than to say we have a president who represents fairness and equality for all? Look how he stepped up for this African-American soccer player and questioned them, giving him a red card so he could participate in the next challenge of game. Vanita, my God, what do you expect?
I have no words.
I'm sorry, Vanita. I'm picking on you.
Okay,
I know.
You saw the U.S. loss, so.
Yeah. Imhotep, what's your question coming today, sir? Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning to the esteemed attorneys giving us some of the painful legal frameworks and legal legal view of things that happen. I just saw the video from Houston this morning, from the Houston local news, and I just saw the interview from the Houston mayor. And the Houston, there are businesses and buildings around where the incident happened. They have a video of exactly what happened now. I don't know if you all have seen it. They cut him off. He was going to work. He was driving down the street. They have the actual video of them. He was making a turn. They cut him off. And then he backed up, tried to go straight. They made a triple parallel, made a triplet turn, came back, and they cut him off again.
Why they cut him off? He might have been obeying the law or directions.
He was just driving to work. He was just driving. You can see it on the video. He's just driving straight. He's just driving straight down the street.
Arguably targeting.
He's just driving straight down the street.
Van.
They're in a dark. They're in a dark. Look like one of those Ford Explorer sport track trucks. There's nothing identifiable on the truck. So as a natural person, you're just driving and going about your business. You're not paying attention to what's going on. There's no lights and sirens, and there's no identifiable markings on this dark vehicle, blackish, bluish, greenish vehicle. There's nothing identifiable on it. So as a citizen, you don't know what's what. You could think it's a crazy driver if he's even looking in his mirrors. I'm a mirror driver because I was taught that from the old school. I've glanced at my rear view and my sides, but a lot of people don't drive that way, Milton. They don't drive that way, so he may not even been aware of anybody behind him or anything like that. You see what I'm saying? They know what they're doing. Remember, you're not responsible for somebody behind you. Now, if lights and sirens is going and things like that, and the beam is put on your car, then yeah, you know that cop is flashing you. But that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case for him. That wasn't the case. And so I just wanted to point out too, we had some decisions this week that kind of pained me. One was the Justice Department, and I'm sure Attorney Prime can speak to this. Justice Department decided to end all EEOC investigations, and then the hiring. The picture of the new lawyers hired for the EEOC division of Justice Department was just atrocious. They were all white lawyers. I think 90 of the 100, I think 94 of the 100, or 93 of the 100 were white men. That was horrible. And then also the Justice Department recommending that the case for sedition and treason be dropped on the remaining Proud Boy members, and the federal judge approved for that to be dismissed. So that was atrocious. We did get a decision last night, I guess at 12 midnight, the housing bill takes effect. This law now because Trump didn't sign it, and I think the 10 days passed. And so that housing bill now takes effect. Hopefully we can get some relief. Trump's interview about the housing issue sounded like a person who was just thoroughly in his own, like he is selfish. He said he didn't quote. This is quote. I want you all listening to this, people. All you black people listening here. All you black conservatives. All you black magats like Bishop Talbot Swan talks about, like Reverend Barber talked about last week. Reverend Barber talked about a lot of black maggot white Christian nationalism infiltrating the black church. So I want you all listening to this. Donald Trump said he don't care about houses being affordable to nobody. He's not going to help try to bring affordability to housing. He ain't trying to help people who have not worked hard enough to be able to afford a home. That's exactly what he said. That's exactly what he said. You got people out here working 2, 3 jobs. I have some relatives, a husband, wife, and 2 of their siblings. I mean, 2 of their children.
Himotep,
Yeah.
hold on for a second. But here's the problem. Whenever my TV works, it's all Trump all the time on MSNBC and that channel. And they show these speeches that Trump is giving or how he responds. When he's over there at that summit, he was talking about the Republic of Japan that was bombing. So he didn't even know that it was which country that he's bombing. It was just insane that the person who's the leader of the free world doesn't even know the country that he's bombing. It was just, if that would have been Joe Biden saying these ridiculous things, confusing countries and things like that. So now we have a representative who goes before world's leaders and don't have a clue what he's talking about. So when you were talking about him not signing things, maybe that's one of the few things that was coherent for him to think about, because every time they give a speech every night, it's just a series of random thought process that just doesn't match up to reality. And so
it doesn't match up. Yeah,
I see is that,
it doesn't match. Yeah, it doesn't match reality. I mean, he keeps bringing up the SAVE Act again. And the SAVE Act is not anything to save anything. It's a voter suppression act. Marsha Blackburn, Senator Blackburn's up there lying, talking about, well, it's easy to get a birth certificate. Anybody can get a birth certificate. And then, this and the third, and everybody has ID under the SAVE Act. Your state ID wouldn't work. You wouldn't be able to vote with that. So she doesn't even know the bill. The gentleman is asking her, has she even read the bill? And she doesn't even know the bill. Here's the people we have representing us. I mean, honestly, to be truthful, and I know you guys are lawyers, and I definitely would put you on the spot, but as a grassroots organizer and a freedom fighter, and out of the mold of Frantz Fanon and Dick Gregory and people like that, the American people should have been overthrew this government. If you read the Declaration of Independence, it says when the government stops being for the people, and I'm just paraphrasing it, when it takes up arms and takes the liberties from the people, it's the people have the right to overthrow that government. That's in so many words it says in the Declaration of Independence. And so when you look at the things that they're doing, you look at the things that's being said, there's no in the world. Now I know voting is part of the process, this and third, and we probably after January 6th, we probably won't have that kind of stuff, but boycotts, things like that can help, and things and other things like. But Marsha Blackburn, most of the people there have not even read the bills that they signed. They don't even read the bills, and we want to talk about the population not voting, and that's a problem. But it's a big problem when you have representative senators and representatives in D.C. who they didn't read bills. Remember last year with the big beautiful bill, big ugly bill. Remember they didn't read it. Remember they rushed it through. Remember they admitted, most of them admitted they didn't read it. They didn't even know what was in that bill. That's a problem, man. Thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely. And the hypocrisy, is glaring with respect to specifically affordability. 75%, approximately 75% of U.S. households cannot afford to purchase a median priced new home. And only about 20% of homes are considered affordable to a median income buyer. And that leaves 75% of households, the American dream, which used to be the American dream of home ownership, is out of reach.
Well, Anita, didn't he set the example on how much money one can make and should be making in their lifetime? Not even their lifetime, in a short matter of time. How much did he make? $2 billion recently?
What did he steal, or what did he actually make?
Is it $3.4 billion since the second term began?
Well, then he can't see a problem in purchasing any house.
we got a $400 million jet gifted to him. So I'm not sure they even counted that, which is a clear violation of our
The
Constitution.
emoluments clause.
Yeah. But going forward, the 4th of July, 250 years, and I really wasn't in a celebration mood because out of 250 years, when you look at that as a whole, we were in involuntary servitude called slavery. And then we had the passage of the Black Code, we had Jim Crow laws, we had segregation. So I grew up in the segregated South. And so only since about 1970 did we have, in South Florida, did you have open access to restaurants and things. So when I think about the 250 years, the majority of that time was not cause to celebrate. My father was in the Army, it was segregated. My older brother, when he got into the military, it was transitioning over. And when I was in there, of course, at Fort Polk, I would look at it, my director, half of the soldiers were Black. And then when I go to law school, Milton, I discovered that in Vietnam, we're a small percentage of the American population, but Black males were half the people that got killed in Vietnam.
Right.
So when I look at this idea of, and then like Vanita pointed out, was it really a celebration of America, or was it just total political stuff? I mean, I don't know. It's just crazy stuff going on. I see the pun and stuff, and I don't get it. It was just bizarre activities to me.
It was celebration of him, they say, mostly, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the danger is that we can't politicize the armed forces, and certainly we thank Nathaniel for his service, and General C.Q. Brown penned an essay on July 4th where he really condemned the administration and the politicization of the military. And it shouldn't be Republican or Democrat. It should be, service of the country. And, he rightly indicated there are some, grave concerns in that regard in terms of what we saw regarding this celebration. We saw Apache helicopter used during a Kid Rock performance and discipline being reversed, which is just unheard of. We see, Pete Hegseth, the secretary of now what they call the Department of War, taking unheard of actions and reversing promotions, mainly for people of color and women. And so, there's certainly, a lot of problems that need to be addressed and corrected. And I think we really need to, push our leaders, particularly those that are running for office, to really address these very, very important issues. Because I think, as General Brown indicated, there can't be greater danger to our democracy if we're having people in the military, turning arms against nonviolent protesters or being involved in political activities. So I think we should really heed his warning. And those who have seen, C.Q. Brown, the only second African-American to lead the Joint Chiefs of Staff who was fired by this administration, when he starts putting out the clarion call that there's problems, I think we should take heed of that.
Absolutely, Marlon. C.Q. Brown, the 21st chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he was the highest ranking military officer. In his recent essay, he warned against the politicization of the military, and that the respect for our military is grounded in lawful, non-political conduct and dedication to its core mission. And he strongly warned against unleashing the military on U.S. cities like we've been seeing across the nation. They should be focused on their primary combat mission, and they're not, and I quote, "the military is not designed to save the republic from political impasses. We should not use the military to fix civilian institutions."
Okay, Renee, what's your question or comment for today? Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. A couple of comments. I know you're going to get to the SCOTUS ruling that essentially gave the person in the White House power to fire heads of agencies.
Yes.
So my thought on that was they didn't even wait a week. He's already had heads up fire heads of agency. Matter of fact, the election committee that is supposed to regulate make sure that state elections are above board. He fired every single one of them or made them quit. There is nobody in that department anymore. So he's already used that to start to mess with the midterm election. And is there anything that we can do about that? Sorry, am I breaking up?
Yes.
Am I breaking up? Okay.
Yes.
I'll repeat that. So he's already fired the heads of agencies that regulate or at least state elections or protection for state elections. He's emptied out that agency, head of agency. So he's already started. This is a week after that ruling. The other thing is that I wanted to talk about the case in Texas where the man was killed. The problem with that is that they're not turning over the evidence to share with the state and local law enforcement. So ICE is developing a record that they're just this vigilante or, separate from the rest of the country. So tell me what you guys think about that and the ruling in SCOTUS. Thank you.
Well, in terms of the ICE murder of this gentleman down in Texas, I did see some of the video footage, and the video footage that I saw looked like they shot through his window, and it was looked like a Jeep type SUV that was, I couldn't tell the color, but it wasn't black, but none of the vehicles had police marker or indication, and so you got what appears to be a bunch of civilians out doing vigilante type conduct. I mean, you couldn't tell, at least from the video that I saw, that these were actual law enforcement officials. So one of the dangers we're getting into in America is that if we give blanket immunity to people that randomly go out and murder people, is this a democracy anymore? I mean, in other words, if they're not held accountable, what are the guardrails anymore? You can now go out and start killing people just indiscriminately and not have any accountability. That, to me, eventually what's going to happen is that after this administration leaves office, I believe very strongly the next administration is going to hold these folks accountable.
You know, I've been not attacking Benita because I respect her too much for that, but I've been teasingly messing with Benita. But I want to point out that Marlon had one of the most horrible incidents of shooting. When you said shooting through the windshield in Cleveland, I think it was, Marlon, where the police jumped on top of the hood of the car and shot 40 sometimes through the windshield. I think what's it called? 137 shots, I think is the name of the video. 147, 137 shots where they shot at this car going down a 6 mile, 5 mile stretch that ended up in front of a school. And the officer said he was fearful for his life, so he jumped up on the hood of the car and shot through the windshield with several magazines from his pistol to make sure he killed the two people in the car, a man and a woman. And he had a court trial, and the judge found that he was in fear for his life and it was a justifiable homicide. Wasn't that in Cleveland, Marlon?
Yes, it was. That was a Timothy Russell and Melissa Williams case. And it just really just reinforces what Nathaniel and all of us have been saying, just the importance of voting. There's a lot of people that stay on the couch and they don't vote, and that act has consequences. And those that do vote, it's really important to vote down the ballot regarding those judicial elections. And I really encourage, our National Bar affiliates, African American lawyers. If you have experiences with these judges that you know that are not fair, you have to tell somebody. And a number of bar associations have review commissions where they give rankings and ratings for judges. And those are things that the people in our community really need to pay attention to because a trial court judge, as you know, in your illustrious career, Milton, and also Nathaniel and Vanita, that makes a huge difference in terms of evidentiary rulings that are made even before the trial takes place. But I do want to just spend 1 second that I think is really important that Renee brings up a very important point about the Supreme Court decision as it relates to the growing authoritarianism. The Supreme Court is using this theory called the unitary executive theory, that they're giving more and more power to the President of the United States. So what they basically said is that the president now exclusively has the power to hire and fire, individuals that head these independent agencies. And these independent agencies have important functions: the Federal Elections Commission, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the Federal Assistance Commission that he just basically fired. The problem for our democracy is that many of these commissions were set up by Congress, and Congress basically said that, hey, they're going to be, a certain number of Democrats, a certain number of Republicans. If you allow one president the authority to hire and fire, then if the president doesn't like that particular statute, then nothing's going to get enforced. And that's what we're going to probably see as it relates to this Election Assistance Commission, the Federal Elections Commission, and the impact it's going to have on the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission that helps administer the 1964 and Civil Rights Act and other Civil Rights Act. So this is something that we should be really concerned about. And, many people are going to be asking for our vote. And I think we have to articulate that, hey, this is a clear and present danger for our democracy to let someone have this kind of power. And finally, it's important, not only can the president fire department heads, what's that going to mean for African Americans that are working in these federal agencies? Lyndon Johnson, when he signed the affirmative action order, the federal government and local governments, they were one of the first to start hiring African Americans to help create a Black middle class. So if you have no civil service protection, regarding the agency heads and presumably the employees, now where is that going to put us? So it's something that we're going to really have to keep our eye on, and it's something that we have to articulate to those that are trying to get our votes.
And many of these agencies, including the ones that Marlon just cited, and I'll add the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the FTC, the FCC, the National Labor Relations Board. Again, these are all independent agencies, and many of these agencies' mission is to protect consumers. And so now, with the exception of the Federal Reserve Board, one president can fire all of those independent agency heads and replace them with loyalists and sycophants that will do his personal bidding. That's dangerous.
If Congress created these agencies, what give the president the power to eliminate them or get rid of them, Marlon?
We have a caller, Guy.
Yeah, yes. Go ahead, caller. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Guy. What's your question or comment today, sir?
What'd you say?
What's your question or comment today?
Well, a couple of things. I wanted to point out something that might be on a positive note. You may have noticed after the birthright citizenship decree that the Supreme Court made, Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio, who is a Republican and reportedly a Trump supporter, he's fighting that because Springfield, Ohio was one example. And you remember during the election, they were talking about the people, the Haitians were eating the dogs and the cats and whatever. But anyway, that was obviously false. But some people use that in their voting pattern. But I think the fact that Mike DeWine, the governor of Ohio, is striking out against this decision because he feels that the Haitians have made a positive contribution and are making a positive contribution in Ohio. I think this needs to be supported and looked at very carefully as a positive note. The other thing would be talking about the military. There was, as you may or may not know, there was quite a bit of feeling in the military about women and minorities rising to the top ranks. On a basic level, I guess it would be like they would have to be saluted, and some people didn't want to salute them. It kind of got down to that basic level, unfortunately. And as a result, you got somebody like Pete Hedgepath, who might be looked at as characterized as maybe Beetle Bailey in the comic strips, with apologies to Beetle Bailey. But when they took down photos in the Pentagon of people like Chappie James, General Chappie James, outstanding fighter pilot, and others, when they took down these photos, that's an indication. And I think it's a better example of a president who wants to reign, but really needs to be reined in at all costs.
Okay, thanks, Guy.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's go to Pierre. Pierre Pullen, do you have a question or comment today? Go ahead, Pierre.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for taking my call, Nate. I just wanted to call in and chime in real quick on these agency heads. Here in Indianapolis, one of the things that the National Labor Relations Board is doing, I recently filed a charge against my employer. One of the things they're doing is they're just taking charges as unassigned. They're unassigning these charges, and what they're doing is they're just they say that they're overwhelmed and they can't assign these charges to case managers or whatever, or investigators. Just another way to help the employers and slow down the process. Now, they say that they don't have the manpower, but a lot of unfair labor practice charges now are going unassigned, except if you've got something really going on. But what it really boils down to is a lot of these agency heads over at the EEOC and National Labor Relations Board downtown here in Indianapolis, they're afraid to rule against the company. They were never predisposed to rule against the company anyway, because most of them were Republicans and are down there doing their own political bidding. But they're not going to fire. They're not going to hit a company with an unfair labor practice or anything like that because they're afraid to get fired. And and then we got a United States attorney who, in my opinion, is protecting a lot of these federal employees and judges and stuff downtown. So I just don't know what's going on. Well, I know what's going on, but it's not being reported in the news or anything like that. That's my comment. That's the only thing I want to say. Thank you for taking my call.
Okay. Okay, one quick caller. You got a quick question or comment for us, caller? Go ahead.
That was a previous caller.
Okay. Now, wait a second. I got a quick question, Marlon. The General Brown, I've never seen such a massive turnover of highly skilled military officer in American history. I think this is unprecedented. I just don't remember we've seen this much turnover, particularly in light of the fact that we single-handedly started a war that look like no quick end in sight. I don't get it. And we're paying over $1 billion a day for this war, and the people who have the high skill set, we're kicking them to the curb. Doesn't make any sense to me.
Yes, it's really unfortunate, and it's part of what we had mentioned earlier about General C.Q. Brown. And I really recommend your audience look at the essay that he penned with a number of other people, and he penned it on July 4th, uh, the July 4th holiday. And he really kind of warned about the fact that there is a nonpartisan commission that makes the determinations as relates to who gets raises. And according to General Brown, there's never been an instance where the secretary of that agency or department really tries to overturn those recommendations. Those are the individuals that have seen the candidates on a daily basis. They've seen them in wartime conditions, pressure, and Pete Hegseth, the secretary, basically reached down and interfered with those determinations. And General Brown indicates that a lot of those appear to be based upon race and not meritorious factors. And so, again, it can't be, further emphasized that the military cannot be partisan, and that's why you saw when the president had the unprecedented speech before military officers, a lot of them remained silent. They did not cheer, and that's very important because we do not want anyone to believe that members of our military, they have they kill, they engage in war. We want to make sure that they're doing that on a nonpartisan basis and not based upon any partisanship. No one should be the whim of any president or any politician. So there's really a clear and present danger going on that we all should be aware of.
Hey, Marlon, when I watched that TV interview with Hegseth, whatever the heck that guy's name is, and all those generals and officers looking at this guy, and I'm thinking to myself, they're thinking that this guy's a complete buffoon. They're sitting there and he's saying all these ridiculous things. And it's almost like he doesn't have a clue of what the military is all about, even though he briefly served before they kicked him out. And it was just a shocking abuse of power in my mind, because you take all these skilled individuals from all parts of the world, you order them to come to DC to give this crazy political speech. And then now the ultimate goal is to get rid of all the Black officers, it seemed like, and women in the military in these key leadership roles. It's a sad day in American history. And I think that it goes to show you that voting is more important than ever now, because we're getting into this situation whereby we're seeing an erosion of our rights that we benefited from for the last 50 years. And single-handedly, we're seeing a gigantic rollback when we have the Department of Justice now become the Department of Injustice, and so we see a continuation of attack on minority citizens. Now, finally, though, I don't know about the midterm, but we have one additional issue that I know Attorney Banks had pointed out. That was a mess up in, is that Maine with the Senate race? Is that right? Attorney Banks?
Yes, we had the Maine Senate race with the candidate Plattner that had won the primary stepped down as a result of allegations of rape that surfaced this week.
Well, I don't understand these political screening process, but the second thing is, it was okay for him to run if he had put a Nazi on his chest or something as a tattoo. And then I was watching this. It was just bizarre to me when I watched the TV interview of his accuser. She was saying that I guess he was drunk as hell and he came over to her house. And I guess she would have to let this drunk guy into her house. and during the time he's in her house, he sexually assaulted her while they're in bed or something. I was listening to that. I said, and now it become a story because he's running for Senate, and I was listening. Was this reported to the police? And I don't know. I had a lot of questions about it, but it just seemed like to me that when this guy started running, there was a lot red flags to start with, and so I don't get it why they did not detect this sooner. I don't know. Okay. Okay, we have to enter our time. Any final comment as we close out today's Attorney Banks?
Well, one bright spot this week was the Justice in Motion tour that is being conducted right now. And that's a nonpartisan advocacy group that consists of actual judges. And they are conducting seminars and meetings at schools and town halls. And they're advocating, and it's critically important, that our democracy cannot survive without an independent judiciary. And so they are promoting the importance, and these are actual judges in their robes going to schools and community groups, just stressing the importance of a independent judiciary, which is one strong component of a democracy.
Okay, Attorney Prime.
Yes, I echo those comments. One of the things that I would recommend your audience really pay close attention to is Ketanji Brown Jackson. She just issued a wonderful concurrence opinion in the birthright citizenship case. And although she's been on the losing side of a number of cases, just how she chronicles history, I think is really important. And I think when we look back at this Roberts Court, a lot of attention will be paid to how Ketanji Brown Jackson chronicled the history and some of these rulings that really aren't consistent with precedent and are outliers.
Attorney Grimes, final comment, sir?
He won't be in office forever, so we still have the right to vote, and we got to exercise that right forcefully. We got a bad couple of years ahead probably, but we'll get through it.
Well, our audience, this week in Indianapolis, we have another edition of that wonderful event called Black Expo. We're, my law firm, doing some sponsorship. We have a basketball showing, and I want everybody to make sure they go out and support this important function in our society. Also, jury duty. I'm going to be involved in another jury trial this week in Marion County Superior Courts. You're welcome to come by. But until then, we'll talk to you next Saturday, and make sure you get your tickets for the Black Expo concert, which is, we do a partial sponsor of that. It's always one of the best in the nation. Take care, everyone. We'll talk to you next Saturday.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, bye-bye.
Everybody